Hello, my name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to This Is Metal. And along for a ride, as usual, is my co-host and good friend, Joe Lawson. How you doing today, Joe?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Have you been listening to any new CDs lately or anything? Or any new music?
No, but I'm told that the new Dead Daisies album is spectacular. And
I'm with you there, and I got to ask you. I know we talked a little bit about the Dead Daisies because they're one of my favorite kind of. I mean, if you were to ask me, what's a great new band? They've been around for a couple of years now, but I'd say the Dead Daisies. I mean, that's one of the bands I can kind of point to. I say, when people say rock is dead, just look at what the Dead Daisies doing, and then say that it's just the bands like when you and I were growing up. There were so many great bands back in those days, but it's just that it's not quite as obvious these days. You just have to look a little hard, and you'll find great bands.
Now what's exciting is they got Glenn Hughes.
Oh yeah, Glenn Hughes. I mean,
Purple? Oh man, that's absolutely
and
fantastic.
That guy is such a triple threat in the sense. I mean, great singer, bass player, songwriter. I mean, and he they replaced he replaced actually two guys, John Corabi and Marco Mendoza. So. I mean,
right.
They went from being a 5-piece band to a 4-piece, and the legendary Glenn Hughes, he's such a huge talent that he's able to replace those two guys.
Right, crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and in fact, that's the one I've been listening to, the Dead Daisies. It just came out last Friday, and I'll just say what I really love about it is the fact that the album was supposed to come out around this time last year. They've been holding it off because of the pandemic and everything, and so a lot of this stuff is old, but they've been releasing a kind of a track at a time, and there are about 4 tracks that I hadn't heard yet, and so it was still like listening to a new album. But with any further ado, tonight we're going to be talking about Dangerous Toys, one of my all-time favorite metal bands, and from the '80s, and you were telling one part reasons we decided to do a show, Joe, is you and I were having a private discussion, and you saved it for tonight. You told me that, well, if we do a show on Dangerous Toys, that you kind of had a story about the band. So why don't we get into that first?
Okay, well, first off, I was a huge Dangerous Toys fan. I still am.
Yeah.
And I went to go see them. At the time, I was living in Ohio, and they played a small bar called McGuffey's in Dayton, Ohio. And I was there to see them. Like I said, I was probably 19, 20, something like that.
Wow, real young.
And so I was pretty excited, man, and I walk up to Jason and tap him on the shoulder, and he turns around, and then I start a conversation with him, introduce myself, and tell him what a big fan I am and how much I love the Dangerous Toys, and I think that he's a fantastic lyricist also.
Oh yeah.
And and I'm telling him all this stuff as a young kid, looking up to him and stuff. And in mid conversation, he goes, "Yeah, that's cool, man." Turns around, ignores me, and starts talking to these 2 chicks, and just totally blew me off in the middle of my conversation. He didn't even let me finish the sentence. He just turned around like, "Fuck you."
Wow.
And he smelled like he hadn't taken a shower in about 6 or 8 months.
Wow.
I know that's not the story you were hoping for.
No, but I'll tell you what's interesting about it, because you have a different experience than I do. I mean, I've never met the man like that face to face, so you have a way different experience. Over the years, doing these interviews, I've had he's probably one of the guys I've interviewed the most, just because. For the simple fact, my experience has been he always makes himself very accessible. Now,
cool.
I've never had the experience you did, but that's cool too, because like everybody, they got more than just one side, and who knows, maybe
exactly. It could have been a long night and a rough night. I'm not knocking the guy.
No.
Hold that against him really, or anything crazy like that. It was unfortunate, but
but
like I said, especially being a young kid and really looking up to him, and you finally get to meet the guy, and he just blows you off.
But that's part of why we do this. This is Metal Show, because I mean, you and I just with the music we're into, we got totally different experiences, and your experience may be one thing, mine may be another. And like I said,
sure.
I've been a fan of the guys just from the time, like you, Joe, from when Dangerous Toys first came out, like in 1987. And they were a band, of course, formed in Austin, Texas, and Jason McMaster. I mean, the thing with him is he is kind of Dangerous Toys in the sense that I could probably name like, maybe one of the other guitar players, Paul Liddell, I think his name is, but Jason McMaster, like a lot of people, when they hear the name Dangerous Toys, oh yeah, you mean Jason McMasters. I mean, not too many people could probably name the other guys. I mean, it's not only that he's a great front man, but he's kind of a face, he's the voice. He's a guy that does most of the writing. He does all the interviews pretty much. So that's the face of that band. And I will say, anytime I've interviewed Jason, he's always been super cool with me. I mean, he's always made himself available.
Good.
He's always come across as very... That's my experience. So I can tell that. And
cool.
Part of the reason I think he's... he's got... People think, Jason is Dangerous Toys, besides everything I just mentioned, is... I mean, first of all, the music is so great. And the interesting thing is, they released their final album like in 1995, I think, and they haven't released anything any new music really since then. They've been kind of living off their catalog, which is like 4 albums and a live album, and I think the last they were dropped by Columbia Records in '92. But my point is, they continue from time to time, go out there and they tour live, and they do a lot of they do a lot of shows locally in Texas, where they're from, and the thing is, the fans are just so rabid. I mean, even though it's been that long since they've released anything new, their music is very powerful in the sense that they've been able to kind of tour that catalog of those 4 albums,
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of the music, absolutely. Like I mentioned at the beginning of my story, I mean, that was why I was there.
Yeah.
And, everything from their first record, which in the early 90s, I played in a cover band in Ohio and covered Teasin' Pleasin'.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, that was off the first record. And I loved Hellacious Acres, their follow-up record. I thought it was heavier, but I loved it still just the same. And I think the follow-up to that was even better. I know it wasn't as popular, but it was called Pissed. And there were some great tracks on that. I mean, I think that showcased a more mature side of their songwriting, and I loved it. I thought it was a great record. And to be totally honest with you, Jason, I didn't even know that they put out an album in '95.
I think it was like a live...
I thought Piss was their last record. So
I was reading...
As soon as we're done with this interview, you know what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, because I was reading something today that their final album, I think, came out in '95. I believe it was a live album called The Artist Formerly Known as Dangerous Toys.
So that's the live record?
I think so.
Okay.
And you can check up on that, but that's what I was reading about today. And
cool.
Preparation for this. And the interesting thing too is again, getting into some of the, like when you and I were growing up, and again, like the debut came out from Dangerous Toys came out in 1987. This is the time frame we're talking about. And I think the 4th album came out like in '92. But in any event, the artwork on those album covers, I mean, kind of like the Iron Maiden album covers, where you never really saw the band on the album cover. I mean, they had, I don't even know what the mascot's, but they had this crazy clown mascot that it was a really cool, evil looking kind of spooky, horror type, crazy clown, but it was cool. And, and that's part of the reason I think, Jason doing all the interviews, kind of being the voice and the face of the band, everybody was looking at all those album covers. They were just so cool. People talked, I mean, artwork back in the day when we were growing up, Joe, was very important, as you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to me it still is.
Yeah.
It's part of the whole experience.
And I one thing I've always respected about Jason is, because like I said, I've interviewed him several times, besides, always being kind of friendly and down to earth to me, the huge talent that even though Dangerous Toys has not put out any new music since '92, he continues to have all of these other projects like Broken Teeth, Igniter, I think, is one, and they do not all sound like Dangerous Toys like you might think they would. Each project kind of sounds...
I may be mistaken, but I think Jason, not too long ago, did another record with the band Watchtower. I know he was originally part of that, but I might be mistaken. But
I think
he recorded something or wrote something new with them or something.
I'll have to follow that up. But from what I know recently that he's done is with another band, as I was mentioning, he has called Igniter. They put out, I think, a new studio CD last year, like the year before.
Okay, maybe that's what it was.
But Watchtower, we should also mention that because that was another band that kind of it preceded Dangerous Toys, but it was much more heavier,
Sure.
And among like guitar players, that's still one of those albums that unless you're like really into metal, it was the only album I think Watchtower ever released, but among metal fans, if you're really into like cult metal, you'll probably have heard of Watchtower. It also featured this guitar player named Billy White, and what people know him from is he played on Don Dawkins' 1990 Up From the Ashes album, and so it's kind of a really kind of a cult classic among the die-hard metal fans, but that's where Jason got his start, and some of the guys in Dangerous Toys seen him, and they needed somebody to front the band, and that's how he was kind of discovered and got the opportunity to join Dangerous Toys. And just to take that a little further, like I said, all these years later, Jason McMaster's really the sole, kind of original member from that classic lineup we all know, and he's taken, he continues to tour with it, and he has all these other projects, but he's kind of really become more so the face and the voice of that band because he's the one guy that's, one constant that's been there all these years.
Sure, and honestly, it's kind of sad that they didn't get the recognition that maybe you and I feel that they deserve.
Yeah.
I mean, they started off with very, very promising.
Yeah.
With a great debut, Columbia Records was supporting it pretty wholeheartedly, I would say. They had Max Norman produce it. From Ozzy Osbourne, Megadeth, I think Whitesnake, that Max Norman's done all kinds of great rock bands. And, they had success with the record, gold certification. They're on Billboard 200, so they had the singles, Teasin' Pleasin' and Scared. They were getting support from Headbangers Ball. So they started off really strong.
Oh yeah.
And I would be curious to talk to Jason or some of the guys in the band and get their take on what happened. Was it a lack of label support, a lack of finances?
Yeah.
What changed there? Because Hellacious Acres was a kick-ass fucking record. It was fucking great.
Well,
it came out in 91, and in all honesty, the 90s things did start changing.
Yeah.
But you know what? Not that fucking much.
Yeah.
Not that early in the 90s.
Yeah,
I think they kind of got gypped on that second record. I really do.
Yeah, here's the thing, the debut was just, it was really so killer. Like you said, they had Max Norman, a super producer, and then even, I think Hellacious Acres, the second album, that was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, and he's this guy that's worked for everybody from like Journey, Queen, The Cars, so he had a little more of a pop element to what he typically did, but he was a great producer, so you can't say they didn't have any great producers in the studio with them. But I think what it was, like you said, they were kind of around at the, I guess it was a matter of being at the wrong place at the wrong time, do you know what I mean, in the sense that they were big, but they never really broke out in a huge way like they should have. And I think part of the reason was that, like you said, around 92 when their label dropped them, that's when grunge was starting to kind of, I remember back in the day, it seemed like it's almost happened overnight where, they were playing, they still had like Headbangers Ball, they were playing videos by everyone from Motley Crue to Motorhead and, even like Cinderella. I'm talking Headbangers Ball now, but it went from that to Headbangers Ball getting canceled. No more like even MTV Raps. Nothing but once Nirvana hit, a lot of these bands, even people forget. A few more later than '92. We're talking about '94 now when Motley Crue put out that album John Corabi. All of a sudden, Motley Crue was doing clubs. They weren't in the big arenas anymore. That album.
That's what I mean. Things changed in the '90s, like I said, but not in '91.
No.
91 things were going strong, man.
Yeah.
Judas Priest just released Painkiller, for the love of God,
Yeah.
Things were still pretty promising looking for metal, and that's the same year that they came out with Hellacious Acres. That's why, like I said, I would be curious to talk to a lot of the people involved, and just get their different stories,
their takes
on it out of curiosity, because I thought that was a fantastic record. It really was.
Yeah.
And I realized that it didn't chart as high on Billboard.
Yeah.
But I mean, the metal community's never really been about Billboard, to be honest.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd like to know what happened. I know they suffered some lineup changes shortly after that, being dropped by the label, and you know that kind of haunted them for a little while. But you know, they soldiered on and put out an even better one, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
The Pissed album was full of anger and just, I mean, it was great. But like I said, in my opinion, I could hear how the band had matured, and their songwriting, in my opinion, was just getting better and better.
See, and I think that may have played a role, only in the sense that, not that it wasn't a good album, but a lot of metal fans, or just, you know, music fans in general, like, let's say when that debut album came out, that was, I mean, even to this day, that's such a classic, you know, metal album or hard rock, whatever you want to call it. But you know, I dare say that you know, when you have that kind of success, you know, really just on your debut album coming out of the gates, and then
that's a lot of pressure.
Everybody's comparing it to, but no, I want another album like that. I mean, I've heard, you know, I was reading like Rob Halford's biography, you know, his book he recently put out. It's called Confess. But anyways, he was talking about how one of the questions that he's always getting asked, hey Rob, you guys should do another album like Painkiller. And his thing is, okay, Painkiller's a great album, but you know what? That was an album we made back in, 1991 or whatever it was. And he's like, we want to make an album for today. We don't want to do something we did like, 30 years ago or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And so I think there's part of that, that fans want, okay, we want what you did on the first album. Yeah, this is a great, but that's not, we don't want you to progress. We want you to stay the same. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people will tell you that when they hear Jason McMaster sing, especially Dangerous Toys, that there's a real heavy AC/DC influence to what they do. And I always thought that, when it looked like Brian Johnson wasn't going to be in AC/DC anymore, I thought, okay, well, if they're going to try to carry on, that's the one guy that might be able to pull it off. Not that he's going to sound like Brian Johnson, but I think he's kind of got that AC/DC kind of
sound and attitude and dialect.
Yeah,
I could see that, but
it didn't have. Yeah.
Since you brought it up, I love the new AC/DC album.
Yeah.
Go listen to it if you haven't heard it. It's fantastic. It's killer. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it.
And like Joe and I were talking, we're going to do a This Is Metal on that because it is that great of an album. But I'll just tell people one of my classic AC/DC sound. But I think that's a great comeback story, maybe of this last year. And probably right now, my favorite track on that's got to be Through the Mist of Time. Just classic sound all around.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, every song I listened to from that record, I was pleased and impressed, and I think it's just great AC/DC record. Great AC/DC record.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. I don't want to say Dangerous Toys or Jason or like AC/DC clone. It's nothing like that. It's just kind of influence coming out, if you will. So much so that if you listen to any of his albums, like Broken Teeth, it's much different than Dangerous Toys. And like if you want to hear, probably not going to get any new Dangerous Toys music. I would be surprised just because it's been so long since they put anything out. And I think Jason's attitude is kind of like, unless he was to unless the original lineup was maybe to get back together, and there's a chance that they might have that classic Dangerous Toys sound, maybe he felt it would be diluted too much, to try to do with new guys in the band. I don't know, but they do still tour from time to time, but he's still putting out new music like Broken.
Well, speaking of that, in 2008, they did put a 20th anniversary show on in Austin, Texas, with all original members of Dangerous Toys.
Yeah, and part of the reason doing this show tonight is because Dangerous Toys to me has always been one of those bands that they should have, like you said, Joe, they should have been much bigger than what they were. And for for many years they were getting heavy rotation, like on Headbangers Ball and even MTV, like during the day. And like you said, it just after the debut album never really exploded like maybe we think it should have. And there could have been any number, but I respect Jason McMaster as a musician because he does not just live on his Dangerous Toys legacy. I mean, if that's all the guy had, he's like, okay, I got these other bands, and each band, if you listen to like Igniter or Broken Teeth, they sound very different from each other. Just like you have Scream Kings and Dragon Lore,
Yeah.
And each band sounds very different because that's the whole point of having like a different band, because hey, I can do this type of music, this type of metal here. I can do this type of metal over here. And so I just think they should have been much bigger. And they're a band that is still around today because, even like recently, I think they've done some of the big festivals, like Rocklahoma and all that. And they played on some of these cruises. And so, the diehards are still aware of who they are. But then people that maybe haven't heard past the debut album have forgotten about them, and they're no longer around, or Dangerous Toys, oh yeah, I forgot about them,
Right. Well, just to put things into perspective, backtracking what I was mentioning before about Hellacious Acres, their second record that was released in '91, also on Columbia Records.
Yeah.
It charted at number 67, but their debut only charted at number 65.
Wow.
We're not talking that big of a difference here.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. They should have. I think they should have gotten a little more bang for the buck with that record, and I don't think they got it.
Yeah, and even
I don't think that was fair.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Even like the Dead Daisies, a new album we were talking about at the top of the show with Glenn Hughes. It's kind of interesting because I think a new album debuted like at number 1 in Japan. I think in the U.S. it was like number 4. It's almost number 1, but not quite there.
Right.
It's like what did Japan see that we don't? But I think like a lot of these bands we talk about, especially like a band like Dangerous Toys, maybe they're still big in Texas, but like maybe if they went and did a show in Europe. I mean, I hear the European metalheads are just they love their rock bands. It's not like here in the U.S. You guys are has-beens. You're from the '80s. We want something new. I mean, especially in Japan and Europe, I hear the rock fans are just they show the bands nothing but love and support.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I've heard too. The live album, something maybe important to note here, is Vitamins and Crash Helmets Tour. Greatest Hits Live was released '99 on Cleopatra Records.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's the live record you were talking about.
Oh, okay. Now, Cleopatra Records, I do, as a label, I do kind of like some of what they do because, for example, I remember a couple years before Janie Lane died, the singer from Warrant, they put out this album called Latest and Greatest, and what it was is, I guess because they no longer own the right to a lot of their classic stuff, the record company owned the rights to it, so if they wanted to record it or something, they had to record like an updated version or whatever. So they put out a CD of that and a couple new tracks, and they called it like Latest and Greatest, and they were doing that for a while with a lot of artists on the label. But then what the label would start to do, and you got to be real careful here, is like I hear, there's going to be a new Warrant album coming out or something, or an LA Guns album, because these are bands that were on that label. And what they would do is they would repackage some of the stuff with an album cover, a different album cover. So you think you're buying something new, but it's just kind of a repackaging of something old that you already have,
Right.
So you got to be very, very careful with that. But yeah.
Yep.
But but I'm not sure with the live album you're talking about. I'm not sure if that was recorded at one show or a bunch of different shows. But that I've heard some of the tracks from that, like just even on YouTube, and I'll tell you, it's one of those live sounding, like you almost think you're in the crowd there. It's so in your face.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Something else interesting. Did you know Jason sings in a Judas Priest tribute band called Sad Wings.
Now I have seen that online, and he also, I forget what it was called, but he also for a while had a Kiss tribute band, and I don't think it was any. I think he's probably the most famous guy in both these things, but he's playing with some of his friends, and I can tell you, from talking to Jason several times over years, interviewing him, he's like a major Kiss fan, and a lot of that's was what he grew up on. I mean, I did an interview with him talking about a couple of years back the 40th anniversary of the Kiss album Destroyed. He goes, yeah, that was. He goes, man. He goes, that was one of the albums that really did it for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Going back to your comment about the new Igniter record, yeah, that's on Metal Records, an Italian label. There was an announcement on his website October 1st, 2020, so I imagine that's got to be out or coming out soon.
Yeah, because what I can tell you about Igniter, I interviewed him once, probably on their last album, but I think they put out like 3 or 4 studio albums, and I'm not sure who the other guys in the band are, but he's the main guy everybody's checking it out for.
Sure.
And but it's just so it's so cool. Like I said, that he's continuing to put out new music. I mean, a lot of fans say, "Hey, let's give us a new Dangerous Toys album," and for whatever reason, they're not doing that. But I dig the fact that, well, I can't. And for a while, all he was doing was this other band, Broken Teeth. But now he's got Igniter, and see, Broken Teeth is almost. They have been around almost not quite as long as Dangerous Toys, but Broken Teeth, the other band that sounds kind of like AC/DC. They've been around not quite as long as Dangerous Toys, but they've got a legacy that's almost quite as long, if you know what I mean. So he's got these 2 legacy bands now that have been around for a number of years, and now just recently with Igniter, the last couple of years, he's got something new going, and so he's always kind of trying to reinvent himself, trying to stay fresh, and I respect that, because as much as I would maybe love a new Dangerous Toys album, if that's those 4 albums and the live album are we ever going to get, and then hey, that's a great legacy to have, I mean, to be able to go out.
Absolutely, I agree. It would be cool. It'd be very cool if they would do another Dangerous Toys record. But with the current state of things the way they are, I mean, that would have to change drastically probably for that to happen.
Yeah. And it's kind of like
it's kind of a bummer, but like you said, at the same time, at least we got those 4 records, which are fantastic.
I mean, I kind of equivalent it to another hard rock band I've always been a huge fan of, Cinderella. They sound nothing, of course.
Oh yeah, me too. Great band, fantastic.
But the interesting thing, they got like 4 great studio albums, and then I never been able to hear the full story, but I know for years fans have been wanting a new album, and they were involved in some lawsuit with the record company, I guess, that prevents them from putting out any new music. That's why Tom Kiefer was almost forced to, decide. Well, I'm going to go solo. Then I'm going to put out my own solo music. So that's what he's doing now, because for whatever reason they were involved in a lawsuit that's preventing them from putting out any new music. But especially if you listen to those first 3 Cinderella albums, again,
killer. Classics.
I mean, almost 40 years, almost 30 something years later, those songs are part of a soundtrack to my life, anyways, and so many other people's lives. And when I stop and think about, man, they got 4 albums, but those first 3 albums, you go see, if you were to go to a Cinderella show, if they were still, playing live, to be able to have those songs from those 3 albums that we saw all the great videos on MTV back in the day and heard on the radio. I mean, Tom Kiefer, he's one of my all-time favorite songwriters. That's one of the bands where you see just how important songwriting really is, because again, that's a band where you got 3 albums, 3 classic albums that all these years later we're still talking about and listening.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely love Cinderella. I think they're iconic, classic.
They're just a classic band, and
they're one of the classic, iconic band. Absolutely.
And the final thing I say on Cinderella is, almost like if you go back to their debut album, Night Songs, they were like totally all glammed out. But I almost say that was kind of false advertising, and since they're not really a glam band, they had that look because that's the time they came out. But they were really more of a great classic rock band, if you know what I mean. Because after the first album, they weren't so glammed out. That was the look. They had kind of a great look. They were one of those bands where the look, they had the look, but it was not as important as the sound, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, last time I was talking to you, Joe, you're telling me that you guys are pretty much, you got the new Scream Kings album in the can. Are we any more close to having a release date, or are you still working on that?
Well, we're working. We're going to be working on that. We just broke in our new drummer Wendell Craig and bassist Tim Miller. I made an announcement on Facebook about that recently. Mm-hmm. So we're rehearsing and getting songs together and putting stuff together for the next couple of months. We'll kind of be doing that, and in probably about maybe 2 weeks we'll finish work on one of the songs for a video called "Reign of Hellfire."
Wow.
We'll be releasing that as a single for the album soon.
So let me ask you in regards to the new guys. Do they play on the new album, or did they come after you recorded it?
They came after the recording was done, but fantastic guys and great musicians, and we're excited and looking forward to
how did you
writing and recording with these guys.
And how did you find these new guys? Were they guys you knew from the local music scene, or did you find them?
Yeah. They're guys that grew up in the area and that our paths eventually crossed, and they seemed like a good fit, and
so
we're interested in doing it, and so everything just kind of clicked.
So while we're on the subject of Scream Kings, Joe, I was going to ask you, how many albums, like this will be your third or fourth album you guys have done?
Third album.
Third album. Yeah. Wow. Can you believe you got 3 albums now under your belt?
Honestly, man, I feel like we should have 5 or 6. Things move a little too slow for me. But it is what it is, and I'm only one part of the team, so I can't. I'm dependent on
the other guys.
At the mercy of the musicians that I'm working with. So,
and then
sometimes that's a little frustrating, and sometimes it's very rewarding.
And then in California, where I'm from, we've been locked down like a lot of places for most of this last year, and I hear maybe starting Friday they're going to start hopefully easing up with some of the restrictions. How is it where you are, Joe? I mean, as far as, are you hearing anything about maybe being able to go out and play live again, or is it still pretty?
Well, in Indiana, we have a little bit different government than California.
Thank God.
Yeah, but things aren't that bad here, really, honestly. Other states got it worse than we do.
Yeah.
We still got to wear. We're still supposed to wear masks, and some places require, freak out if you don't. Stuff like that. But it's really not that bad here. And,
now,
the bars are open here, and bands are playing shows here. And in Illinois, I've noticed a little bit of an uptick. And bands are starting to, I'm seeing some of my friends and stuff advertise shows and stuff, so that's a promising sign. Yeah,
now in regards to the shows, in the area there, the bands that have been able to get out there and perform, to your knowledge, like if you were up on stage, would you have to wear a mask, or the fact that you're socially, the stage is at least 6 feet away from the audience, that you don't have to wear a mask?
Yeah, I absolutely refuse to do that, so I don't care what they say.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I mean, I was just trying to picture you. I was just trying to picture you up on stage, first of all, you got this mask on. How are you going to get?
Nobody can understand what the fuck.
Exactly.
With those
and
masks.
then as you're screaming,
so how could you understand?
Yeah.
what a singer is singing with a fucking mask on?
Yeah. That was my point. And then
it works for Slipknot and bands like that. If you're just going to get up there and grunt and growl and scream, well, who cares what you're saying anyways?
Yeah, and then the other point is, could you just imagine being up on stage, being the lead singer as you are, and not only can people not understand you with having a mask on, but then can you imagine all the spit and saliva that would be on the mask by the time you take it off? It'd be so hard to breathe. I just, that's what I say. All this, I'm not a big fan of virtue signaling. I mean, I without naming anybody, I mean, even some of these hard rock guys that I grew up on, and I think you know who some of the guys are. You always see them saying stuff. Oh, I'm ashamed of this band. They got up on stage and they did not wear a mask, and that is very bad. How dare they? And I'm like,
blow it out your ass.
Exactly, exactly.
Record this and play it over and over again when you play the segments for our show. Big Joe says, "Blow it out your ass with your mask."
Yeah.
Because here's the science behind that. Okay.
Yeah.
Breathing in your own fucking CO2 is hazardous to your health.
You just don't know.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
There's no maybe. There's no fucking gray area. Breathing in your own CO2 is hazardous to your fucking health. Don't do it.
And you heard it.
Don't do it for 10, 12 hours a day.
And you folks heard it here on This Is Metal from Metal Joe Lawson himself.
Yep. And for those butt-hurt people out there that don't like it, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm not sorry.
Yeah. And before you wrap things up tonight, Joe, I just had a few things because as I'm sitting here, we started doing This Is Metal, I think, around last June. And
it's been that long already.
Yeah, and we've got so many shows already in the can that are just waiting to get posted. I think the one we did tonight, I think, is like episode 16. So we got a lot of cool stuff on the way. But, going back to the very first episode that we did, Joe, it was on Accept, and Blood of the Nations. And it was a very interesting episode for me because, like a lot of people, my Accept was Accept with the legendary Udo Dirkschneider, balls to the wall. But part of the great thing about doing This Is Metal is Joe told me, hey, for a first episode, let's talk about Accept, specifically their Blood of the Nations album. That was the first album they did with the new singer, Mark, I forget what his name, but the current singer. And Mark, yeah. And Joe said, this is a great album, just check it out. And it was interesting because it sounded nothing like the Accept I grew up with, but you know what? It was still a great sounding metal album. And I think that's one mistake a lot of metal fans make. Like, when a band goes through the line, I'm just a fan of original line. I'm not going to listen to anything new they do. And for whatever reason,
you're missing out if you're like that close-minded.
And I'm not close-minded, but for whatever reason, maybe when that album came out, I wasn't even aware it came out. I was aware they had a new singer and that, but it just wasn't on my radar at the time for whatever reason. But listening to it with fresh ears for the first time, I said, hey, Joe's right. This is a great sounding metal. Anyways, I bring this up, Joe, because just this month, recently, I think a couple weeks back, there's a new Accept album with the current lineup. And so kind of to go back to the first episode, I'm going to get the new Accept album. I want to listen to it again so I know what I'm talking about. And then a couple weeks from now, maybe you and I, we can do another Accept show on the new album. And kind of maybe we could compare it to, Blood of a Nation, since that was the first, album with the lineup. So that's something
that'd be fun, sure.
So that's something. And then you were mentioning AC/DC. That's a great new album. And I think you and I both agree. So that's something people have to look forward to. And then final thought from me tonight is if you're a Ronnie James Dio fan, and we also did a Dio episode that a lot of people checked out and loved. Who doesn't love Ronnie James Dio? But if you're a Dio fan, man, in the next couple of months, we have a lot of stuff coming from Dio. I mean, in the next couple of weeks, February 12th to be exact, we're going to get 2 new live Dio albums. Now, one is called Holy Diver Live. And that was, I guess, when they performed Holy Diver in its entirety in concert a few years before Ronnie died. I think it's got, like, Simon Wright, the drummer. It was the last drummer played with Ronnie. He was previously with AC/DC. We have Rudy Sarzo on there. And then we have another, these are reissues that are repackaged. But what's cool about it is, unlike earlier in the conversation when I was telling you about when sometimes when they repackage stuff, it's not just the repackaging of something we already got. In addition to the original live album, getting like different bonus tracks, it's like a 2 or 3, you're getting like 2, 3 CDs with it, all this great artwork. And then in March, I think March 5th to be exact, they're having reissues of both the Mob Rules from Black Sabbath and Heaven and Hell. And then you you can check this if you go like on online. You can find out about this stuff. But and then they're also doing a Heaven and Hell reissue, and with Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell, we're getting also, besides the original studio album being remastered and kind of repackaged, you're also getting like different live versions of his songs. I think you get a concert. I forget where it's from, but like a whole concert from the Heaven and Hell tour. The same thing with Mob Rules. You get like a whole concert.
Yes.
So besides just giving us something we already have, you're getting some extras. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Anything that you want to say before we wrap it up, Joe?
Yeah, I got some homework for you, brother.
Okay.
If you're not familiar with my friends from Sweden in a band called Wolf, I want you to check out Wolf.
Okay.
Fantastic band, and I'd love to do a show on them. And I also want to bring, if COVID ever lifts, I want to try and find some promoters to bring them over here to play.
So now, when you say these guys are your friends, are you just like a fan of what they do, or do you know any of the guys?
Yeah. I don't know them personally. I've talked to a couple of the guys a few times, so it's not like we're best friends.
And I guess we can definitely.
I love them, man. They're a fantastic fucking metal band.
Now, can I find them on?
If you're not familiar with Wolf,
can I find them like on Facebook and that?
Oh yeah, they've got videos out on YouTube and songs.
Okay.
One of their probably more popular songs is "I Will Kill Again," "Speed On." They got "Shark Attack." A number of videos and stuff that you can check out on YouTube too. And this. Okay, well, my very unique voice. The singer's got a great voice, and they're just a phenomenal, great metal band, man.
My response to that is this, Joe. I will definitely do my homework on that because, like we're talking with the Accept Blood of a Nations album, you've turned me on, since we started doing This Is Metal, you've turned me on to some great metal that I missed the first time around, that for whatever reason, and I thought, wow, man, how did I miss this, or how did I not hear this? And so, just based on your record alone, Joe, I'm going to check this band Wolf out, and
please do, man.
And what I would like to do in return is, in the future down the line, we could do either like a show just talking about Wolf, or if you have some other bands that you kind of would like to expose people to, let's make a list, and maybe we can do a special.
Yeah, we can do that. That's a great idea, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and
get some good underground killer bands.
Yeah, that's part of what this. That's part of what this is all about. Kind of turning people on to new stuff that they might not hear otherwise. And so, a final thought for today, Joe, for me is this: when the new Scream Kings album is ready to drop, let us know, and we will interview you on This Is Metal specifically about that. If you want to bring any of your bandmates on to talk with you, we can.
I already talked to them about it, and they're all eager to do it.
And you'll let me know, I guess, when the new single. Do you think that when you release a single, you have a video ready to go, or do you think the single will come first?
The video probably most likely will come first, and then the album and stuff will have all that information. We'll launch it with the video.
Okay.
And we'll use the video kind of to announce the release date and where you can go to get it and that kind of stuff,
And then
so right now we have 3 videos that we're working on.
Oh, so, cool! You're a busy guy. So so folks, before we wrap this up finally for tonight, just to let you know what. Probably the next 3 shows that me and Joe are going to get ready to record for the next couple weeks. Joe's been wanting to do a show on Lizzie Borden, and we've also talked about doing a show on Sabotage, and of course, and then Joe and I were recently talking about doing a show on Motley Crue. I mean, just for the fact that Motley Crue this year, this is like their 40th anniversary, and they were going to go on that big tour last year, from what I understand. They still may be doing the tour, but they're going to kind of revive it as a 40th anniversary tour. So by the time we do all that, we're going to have so much to talk about. But my partner in crime, Joe Lawson, thanks so much for taking the time to do this tonight, and I will be in touch. Thanks again, Joe. Anything else you'd like to say to the fans out there?
Keep it metal, and stay tuned for the next episode, which will be featuring Sean Peck.
Yeah, we and that'll be going up like in early February, probably the first week or two of February, and I will let you guys all know when it gets posted. And thanks for thanks for following us and checking out This Is Metal. We could not do it without you. So to my friend and partner in crime, Joe Lawson, you take care, and I'll be talking to you again real soon, Joe.
You too, brother.
Okay.
Later on.
Okay, bye-bye.